Hi guys, I'm here with the next Capital Mysteries book, number 6, Fireworks at the FBI. I'm going to read chapter 1 for you today, and then I will post every day, every other day, another chapter. It will be in with your assignments. Chapter 1 is called Runaway Rockets. A fiery ball exploded in the sky over the Washington Monument. Red, white, and blue sparks cascaded slowly down high above the crowd. The sparks twinkled, then twinkled out. "That's all there is, folks," a man's voice boomed over a loudspeaker. "Thank you and have a happy and safe 4th of July." 3,000 people clapped, whistled, and cheered. "Those were the best fireworks I've ever seen," the President of the United States said. "And this is the best 4th of July," said Casey. She and her best friend, Marshall, were watching the fireworks from the lawn in front of the Museum of Natural History. President Zachary Thornton and Casey's mom, Lois, sat near them holding hands. They had just gotten married a few months ago. "Shall we go home?" Lois suggested. "I think Yvonne made a cake for us." "Awesome," Casey and Marshall said at the same time. Home was the White House. Casey, her mom, and Casey's 2 cats had moved into the inn after the wedding. Marshall was staying at the White House for the holiday. The president folded the blanket and tucked it under his arm. Marshall carried the basket and they walked toward a sleek black car parked nearby. 6 tall men in dark suits followed them. One of the men spoke quietly into a tiny microchip on his wristwatch. Whenever the president went, Secret Service men came with him. They protected them all the time. "Can we walk back to the White House?" Casey asked. "Sure. I could use the exercise," President said. "But I like riding in the car," Marshall said. "When I learn to drive, I will never walk anywhere." Casey laughed. Then your legs will shrivel up and you'll look like one of those spiders." Marshall was crazy about bugs and spiders. Sometimes he seemed to like them more than people. The president handed the blanket to one of the men, who put it in the car with the basket. Then they walked through the darkness toward the White House. The 6 men stayed close behind. "This feels creepy, having those men following us," Marshall whispered to Casey. "Well, that's what you get for hanging out with the president," Casey joked. They all said hi to a man walking a dog with long, skinny legs. The man's mouth fell open when he recognized that it was the President of the United States. "What kind of dog is this?" the president asked the man, and he stroked the dog's ears. "Manfred is a greyhound. I adopted him in Colorado before I moved out here. He used to race at a dog track." "He seems very gentle," Casey said. The man smiled. "Greyhounds make great pets," he said. After saying goodnight to the man and his dog, they started walking again. "I should have a dog," the president said. "Then I'd get exercise when I would walk him around the White House grounds." "You could walk your cat," Marshall teased. The president laughed. "I wonder if George would like that." They passed several large buildings, all dark, at 9:30 on a holiday night. Suddenly, Casey heard a whizzing sound above their heads. She looked up just as a white flame shot out of one of the windows in a sprawling building. "Did you see that?" Casey cried. "It came out of the FBI building," the president said. "It looked like a rocket," Marshall said. As they stood there gasping, another rocket flew out through the window. Right away, the Secret Service men around the president had him in a group. The president's car pulled up, and President Thornton, Casey, and her mom and Marshall were all shoved inside of the car. Then the black car shot forward and streaked toward the White House. Casey pressed her nose against the window, but all she saw was a blur. In the back seat, the president yanked out his cell phone and flipped it open. A moment later, he was talking to the director of the FBI, Desmond Smiley. "We all saw it, Desmond," the president said. "Lois and the kids were with me, and about half a dozen Secret Service agents. I'm telling you, fireworks shot out of one of the windows in the FBI building." The president listened. "Okay, call me as soon as you know anything, no matter how late it is." He flipped his phone shut and slipped it back into his pocket. "What happened?" Casey asked. "Was it really a rocket?" We don't know yet, the president said, but Mr. Smiley will have the fire department check it out. Within seconds, they heard sirens. Boy, that was fast, Marshall said, as the president's car zoomed inside the garage. The president, Lois, and the two kids slipped through a private entrance to the White House. The president greeted a few guards and then entered an elevator. Casey's favorite Marine guard, Arnold, saluted them as they stepped out. Were the fireworks exciting? He asked. I'll say, Marshall blurted, making Casey laugh. When they were inside the residence, Casey dropped into a chair at the kitchen table. She realized she had hardly taken a full breath since she had seen the rockets at the FBI building. George, the president's cat, was laying in his bed near the stove. Casey's cats, Lost and Found, were cuddling up with him. Suddenly, the phone rang. Casey jumped. She felt like a coiled spring. The president must have felt the same way. He answered on the second ring. Yes, he said. The president listened, nodding his head. Pizza, he asked. He sounded surprised. Okay. Good job getting there so fast, Chief. What about pizza? Marshall asked after the president hung up. The fire department discovered which room the rockets were shooting from, and they found a burning pizza box in a trash basket. Who shot off rockets? Casey asked. The fire chief thinks it was an accident. Apparently, someone left a package of rockets on the desk right above the trash can. The chief thinks a spark from the fireworks celebration flew in through the window and set the pizza box on fire, and the fire lit the rockets. Casey frowned. It seemed like an awfully big coincidence to her, but the president didn't seem bothered. My cousin had some rockets last year, Marshall said, and he told me they won't fly if they're lying flat when you light them. You have to set them in a special holder or stick them in the ground. The president had been reaching for a glass of water, but he set it back down without taking a sip, and he looked serious. Marshall, it sounds as if you're saying some person had to aim the rockets. They wouldn't be able to launch themselves, even if a spark accidentally lit them, right? Marshall nodded. Right, sir. Why would anyone want to shoot rockets out of the window from the FBI building? Casey asked. I don't know. I'm going to the FBI building in the morning. We may have some more answers by then. Can Marshall and I come with you? Casey asked. Casey planned to become a Washington reporter after college. Deep down inside, Casey felt this fireworks story was big, and she wanted to be part of it. Chapter 2 is called The Clue in the Trash Can. I wonder what happened. I wonder if it is a pizza box or if someone really set off the rockets. We'll hear the next chapter very soon.